An indie studio submit their game to Steam. It got rejected because it was too suggestive and Steam wanted to censor their entire game. Influencers rallied behind this indie developer, and then a week later, Valve reversed their decision. This is a huge victory for freedom and anti-censorship. Or is it? Salam, my name is Mustafa. I am the solo developer of Sabr Path. I have worked in the AAA industry for a while. Currently, I do independent games that I solo develop. One is on Steam and the second one is in development. This past week, the indie developers who are working on a new game claimed that their game is completely being censored by Steam. This led to many influencers rushing online stating that Valve is now pushing new censorship on their games. This game's rejection is actually not a new policy at all. What this actually was is uneven enforcement of a policy that's been around for a few years at the very least. This uneven enforcement of the rule, alongside with unprofessionalism from the devs communicating with Steam, turned what's actually a very small administrative issue into a viral freedom of speech event. I want to make it clear, I'm not here to defend Valve. Just like every corporation, there are certain aspects about Valve that I have issue with. I don't care if you like Valve or if you hate Valve. This is more about people getting emotional and the truth becoming distorted. To start from the beginning of the situation, Sakura Studios, they are a small indie team. They developed and published one game on Steam, and it looks like this is the second game that they're trying to get onto Steam. Last week, they tried to submit their horror game onto Steam and it got rejected. In their announcement post that they made on Twitter, they claimed that Valve stated that their artwork is too mature and that they have to censor the game. As you can see on screen, they stay right here. They have to censor the game. This is their words. So I'm going to blur out their backside to be consistent with my morals, but bear with me. If you think blurring out her backside is silly, let me know in the comments below. First off, a major reason why it got flagged as not being PG-13 is because the woman's backside is the main focus of the image. Her head is cropped out of the top. The title of the game is in the center, but right below that, near the center of the image, is the woman's backside. I mention this because it's important to understand why someone might flag something during an approval process. The woman's backside, being the focal point of the game's capsule art, was given as the reasoning as to why the artwork was too mature for the store. So in reality, even though they claimed the game was being censored, the store page got rejected due to the capsule art. Whether you agree or disagree as to whether the capsule art is too mature, that is not the current point. The current point I'm making is that they made a false claim that the game is being censored when it was the capsule art. And it's important to point this out because transparency is not there. The issue is that the store page assets were not approved, not the game. Many influencers took this, ran with it, and started saying that this is new censorship that Valve is enforcing. Steam developers have access to the Steam documentation. Rules and regulations are all posted on there. Yes, there are lots of documentation to go through, but it is all available in there for us to go through. There are pages that specifically go over what's allowed on the capsule art. Here's a post on the Steamworks community page, which has a lot of the same information that's on there. This post was from July 2022. It clearly states that all capsule images must include PG-13 appropriate artwork. So this rule is not a new rule. It is a rule that's been around for at least 3 years, maybe even longer. That means the public-facing images of the game need to be safe for general audiences. The Steam agent even told the developers that mature content is allowed in the games, just not on the capsule art itself, because the capsule art and the library art are shown everywhere. But if the issue is about unequal enforcement of this rule, then yes, I agree, the enforcement is unequal. This is true about everything. YouTube moderation is much more lenient on the huge channels than they are on the small channels like my own. Valve treats the big publishers like EA and Ubisoft completely differently from indie developers, giving them many chances to get on the front page. Even out in the real world, something like police enforcement is unequal. And this is due to bureaucratic inconsistency as well as human variance. As long as there are different humans reviewing different things, there's going to be a different outcome. When I was straight out of college, I had a job in which I was grading tests, and they had tens of us working on these tests trying to grade them all manually. There was an attempt to try to get a certain amount of parity and consistency by having certain standards, but regardless, whoever grades the test is always going to have a different outcome, especially since the tests we're grading were short essay questions rather than multiple choice questions which have a clear right or wrong answer. And with human variancy, not only comes inconsistency, but certain things slip through at some times. There are thousands of games that get released on Steam every month. It is humanly impossible for Steam to manually review every single page every time capsule art gets updated. There are two main times in which a Steam page gets manually reviewed. The first time is when the page gets submitted to be launched. Someone from Valve manually reviews if everything looks good, if it looks like an actual game, all the artwork looks good and consistent, everything that's written up makes sense. Then the second time it gets reviewed is when the game is ready for launch. Someone manually reviews if they can launch the game, if it works, if it has all the features that it claims to have, such as Steam achievements, and to make sure that the game matches what is on the Steam page. Other than those 2 points, developers are able to update their Steam page without Valve reviewing and approving it. So that means I can take my store page and completely change it to be something disingenuous, but that's where users have to report me with the report button, because it's literally impossible for Valve to just keep reviewing every single page every time it gets updated. That's just too much work for them. There's too many games. Either we go off of this process in which users report what's incorrect, or they go to a process in which no one's able to update their page unless it gets reviewed by Valve. In addition to that, the people who are reviewing these pages are people. They're all different. There could be a possibility that some of the Valve agents are more lenient towards games that are clearly marked as adult only. I don't have proof that this is true or false, but it is a possibility that happens because of the fact that if a game is marked as adult only, it's invisible to everybody unless they have adult only games on their filter. So there could be an unofficial leniency towards it. Is this fair? No. Is this censorship? Also no. This is just inconsistent moderation. Sakura Studios blocked out the name of the agent who was reviewing their game. People were demanding for visibility of this person's name and wanted that person fired. This is no different from cancel culture. In fact, it's worse because the person was just doing their job, enforcing that capsule art needs to be PG-13. You might disagree with the Valve agent that it is PG-13, but even if you think this image is PG-13, does it mean that this person should get fired? When I looked at Sakura Studios' website, I wanted to learn more about them before talking about them. The website lists a senior data analyst, a lead QA, a community manager, but in reality, it looks like it's just one guy working on the game and 3 friends helping out, probably just doing it as volunteer work for free. The community manager is self-explanatory. I don't need to explain that. The lead QA is probably just a playtester. She likely just lets him know of any bugs she finds and gives him feedback on gameplay changes. And I don't even know what the senior data analyst does. My guess is probably gathering information for market research. Yes, their titles clearly are inflated, but I have seen other indie developers do this when it's like 1 or 2 people and they just want to give themselves fun titles just for the heck of it. But regardless of their inflated titles, which doesn't really matter too much, what matters is their professionalism, especially when they're trying to make themselves out to be a serious studio. They keep referring to themselves as a small team, a studio, etc. So they clearly want to be taken seriously. But if you want to be seen seriously as a studio, you need to communicate professionally with your business partners. Valve is your business partner if you're trying to sell your game on Steam. They shared a number of the messages that they got from Steam, but they only shown us one message in which their portion of the communication is visible. Just for YouTube's sake, I'm going to replace a word with suggestive just so I don't get shadow flagged. It reads, so you're admitting that you know other have graphics that are indeed more suggestive than ours, that are still allowed on your platform? So just for the record, you are aware of this and still won't approve our page? Also, it will be interesting to see what the community thinks on your stance against women's behinds. As a diverse team, our female team believe in women being given the freedom to wear what they want without censorship and think players should be able to see a swimsuit without being called mature or suggestive content. You literally have suggestive games that show more in their graphics that are viewable by everyone, but you're worried about a barely visible back? Also, you said regardless of what they wear, so jeans are now suggestive? Not sure this is the hill you want to die on. Players hate censorship. If you won't permit our page, we want a full refund. Their tone in this ticket comes off as combative and emotionally charged. It doesn't come off as professional at all. It has buzzwords like what the community thinks, diverse team, censorship, and hill you want to die on. This doesn't seem like it's written to be a professional support ticket. Instead, it reads like a tweet that's aimed to rally an audience for the intent of going viral. And they even demand a refund for their Steam Direct submission. For those of you unaware, to become a Steam partner, you need to pay $100 for each game. This is what the Steam Direct submission is. You're paying $100 to Valve saying, I want to put a game on your store. This is non-refundable. It tells you when you pay it. This isn't even their first game that they have on Steam. This is their second game, so this isn't some rookie mistake that they don't understand the Steam Direct fee is non-refundable. I had an issue in the past in which I had a Steam page for a game. I decided I no longer want to complete that game. I asked them if I could make a completely different game, and they did not let me. The only options I had was either release that exact game on that store or to just completely close out that store page altogether. And I told them just close it out because I have no plans on ever making that game. Yes, it was a loss on my part, but that's just how they work. They don't give refunds for that Steam Direct fee. But what makes this worse is that they took this screenshot, shared it on Twitter, and they made it as if the agent was literally telling them, do our job for us. They're trying to twist this professional response as if it was something absurd that was said. The developers told the Steam agent, other games have naughtier things than what we have. And the Steam agent said, okay, flag those games and we'll look into it. As I mentioned already, Steam literally has thousands of games every month coming out. The Steam agent's response is not unreasonable, but the developers tried to twist it as something unreasonable and added a crying emoji. I'm a solo developer. I understand the frustration of things going wrong, especially with the approval process. I've had my own issues with Steam, or even in general support tickets. I was wrongfully banned from LinkedIn for about 6 months. It took forever to finally get my account reinstated when I kept asking them, what did I do wrong? Can you please show me what happened? Can I speak to somebody else? And that's what got my account back. Constantly asking them if I can speak to the next person up. The developers really had two professional options to go with. They can ask for someone else, just like how I asked for someone else with LinkedIn and eventually got my account back. Or the other option is to change the capsule art altogether because the capsule art wasn't even that good to begin with. Instead of doing either of those things, they decided to go public and try to push a false narrative. Their initial claim was that the game is being censored when it was just the capsule art that got rejected. Throughout their social media posts, they've been constantly repositioning themselves as a victim, using crying emojis, dramatic phrasing, and constantly shifting the message whenever new information has surfaced. What started off as Steam is censoring our game later became Steam is against women, and then that later became we're fighting censorship for all game devs. Each step kept changing the goalposts, which came across as drama farming. I want to make this clear though, I don't know these devs. I've never met them before in real life. I don't know anything about their personalities, their history. I don't know anything about them. There could be a chance that this team can be extremely inexperienced in their acting emotionally during a stressful situation. But from my outside perspective, looking at the situation, as well as being a game developer myself, it just looks like engagement farming. This is why the situation just rubs me the wrong way, because many people who are covering this don't know the process of publishing a game on Steam. They don't understand that this is a policy that's been around for years. And so these influencers look at what the developers are saying and take their word for face value. A lot of the people who are in support are also running around being emotional as well. Many people on Twitter are posting very crude capsule art of games that exist on Steam. And they're asking, why is this allowed, but your game's not allowed? The devs are even agreeing with these posts and using them as memes. To me, this comes across as two people speeding down the highway. The person in the back gets pulled over and then tells the cop, hey, why didn't you pull over the other guy? And as I said before, rules don't get enforced equally. That's just a thing of life. It's not fair, and I'm not saying it's okay, but are you just gonna go around and get everybody else's games rejected as well? Is that your plan? That goes back to my initial point that this is not some sort of a censorship campaign from Valve. Instead, it's a rule that's been there for at least 3 years, is just unequally enforced. They're not censoring the game Red Pine Lake. Instead, they're saying your capsule art does not meet our standards, and this specific Steam agent was enforcing it at that time. The developers did ask for somebody else to review their game, and it appears that a different agent looked over and said that it looks fine. Their page did get approved. And that goes back to my point that there's a variance between humans reviewing over things. You're going to get different outcomes. And once Sakura Studios announced that their game got approved, the announcement post still came across as engagement farming. They used hashtag stand up to censorship. Again, it had nothing to do with censorship. To me, it looks like they're still trying to drama farm off that same audience. Steam didn't end up changing any policy. Their policy still exists. Going back to this capsule art, yes, I'm still blurring it out. Overall, this just isn't a very good capsule image. The font itself is extremely hard to read. There's very little contrast in the image, making it hard to read at a quick glance. Here, if I make it black and white, you can see that there's very little contrast. The word red almost disappears with the water. Contrast is important when it comes to visibility. Also, I'm pretty sure most of you didn't even notice that there's a zombie on the other side of the lake. Generally, due to the lack of contrast, the only thing really selling this game and getting people to click on it is the woman's backside. If my team leader told me that this capsule art got rejected and wanted me to redo it so it gets approved, yet still keeping the same essence of this current image, this is what I would do. I would replace the woman's body with a female zombie's face. This way it still keeps the zombie theme. The reason why this is better as a capsule art is because faces attract clicks more than anything else. This rule applies towards anything people click on, whether it is a Steam capsule art or a YouTube thumbnail. Humans are drawn towards other humans, and when they see a face, even if it's not a human face, they're still more drawn to that rather than capsule art or a thumbnail that doesn't have a face on at all. Aside from adding a face, I would drastically change the contrast. I'd make the background blue darker, and I would shift the shade of red so that it is brighter. Also, I added a vignette around the border, as well as making the font much larger so it's easier to read at a glance. As you can see, when I turn the image black and white, there's a lot more contrast with this version than the previous version. With the changes I implemented, not only would the capsule art be compliant with the PG-13 rating, but it would draw more attention due to the higher contrast and the easier to read font. So in conclusion, this was blown out of proportion. This was definitely not corporate censorship. The policy was in place for at least 3 years. This was an administrative issue in which one person decided that the image did not meet compliance. I mean, as far as unequal enforcement, yes, that's a thing. It's an unfortunate thing that's gonna always be a thing. But pointing at other people just makes it look like you're saying, hey, they're speeding too. Let me know in the comments below. Do you disagree with everything I said? If you enjoy the content, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Salam.